How can we get students to be interested in working on their right hand technique? Well, what I do, going back to teaching philosophy, one of the things I said was the importance of us being proficient and us being, we got to keep up our chops. We have to practice what we preach. We can't be telling our students, fix up your right hand, if our right hand's not happening either, if we can't demonstrate it for them. So the thing I would do, Paul, and this can apply maybe in many cases, is to demonstrate. Play something really beautiful, play something they'd like. If it's right hand, I do, right? Say, well, do you want your right hand you want to be able to do tremolo like that? Well, we've got to start at the foundations. Try and inspire them. If it's learning the positions here, you could play some. Yeah, play that for them, and they'll, wow, that's really nice. How can we make students interested in the fundamentals? Because fundamentals can be quite boring. I'm suggesting, if you look at this book here, I'm suggesting to teach to your students, because this is something that I've done, to practice on the top E string. Now, but I think what Jamal said is a good point. You only need to do it for like 5 minutes maximum. 5 minutes of practicing on the top E string, you can make your tone golden. You can get your right hand sorted, all your bad habits fixed in 5 minutes. Would you rather spend 5 minutes a little bit of boring work or play with bad habits all the time? It's different ways to frame it, but it's very important. First of all, we need to do it. We need to show, here is how you can play the top E string and make it beautiful and make sure, we need to show it ourselves. We need to demonstrate that, and we need to actually enjoy it ourselves too, because they'll detect if we're trying to teach them something that's, that we don't enjoy. They'll pick up on that. Let me get back to the question again. It was a very good tangent there to go on to. It's probably going to be pervading all the time. How do we get back to the basics and keep the students interested? But let's go specifically to problems in the right hand that you might encounter. What are some common problems?
The right hand movement,
yes.
where they bob the right hand,
yes,
keeping it still.
Yes, great. Very good. That's actually one that I wrote down. Yeah, plucking up, or bobbing their hand up and down like that. Yeah, very, very common. Very, very common habit. Even in some pretty experienced players, advanced, older, experienced players will sometimes do that, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, good.
Hitting multiple strings.
Hitting multiple strings. Oh, that's not one that I had listed, because I don't seem to encounter that a lot, at least in the students I've taught.
Yeah.
What I've experienced more frequently than that is actually people's right hands not even plucking the right strings. That's actually, in my experience, that's more common than people plucking more strings than they're intending to pluck.
Teaching volume.
Okay, so I would put that in a negative. Lack of dynamics. Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I did not include that in the list, and that's a very good one. Lack of dynamics. That's great. That's really good. Lack of precision, unstable hand. Some other challenges I've encountered: rough nails. Students just not keeping their nails smooth. Their sound can improve so much if their nails are smooth. Rest stroke, just having a good positioning and, feeling comfortable with their rest stroke. That's another one I've found can be a challenge. Using the thumb, doing like a thumb, So even some advanced students can struggle with that. They do things like this. Get stuck, right? So that's a really good list there, guys. Yeah. Another one's bent wrist. Excessively bent wrist. So bobbing up the hand. Yeah. Plucking from the tip joints. So I can try and combine all these things a little bit, yeah. bent wrist, bobbing the hand up and down, plucking from the tip joints,
Having their fingers long instead
having
of
them,
like this.
yeah, if they're doing a free stroke, especially, yeah, free stroke, and
Yeah.
with a lot of straight fingers, they're kind of reaching out. Yeah, reaching out, that's another good one, reaching out. Sometimes we call it a splayed. Their hand is splayed, meaning it's like that instead of like that. It's splayed out. Splayed out hand. Yeah, this is good. It's growing list of. This is a growing list here. Okay, so oh yeah, another one. Oh, pinky. Yeah. The pinky sticking out. Definitely a big one. Yeah, pinky sticking
I
out.
told you my teacher used to hit me with a stick.
That's the solution right there. Get a stick and just whack their pinky. Yeah.
I have the opposite thing. They're not sticking their pinky yet. They're putting it on the. On
They're
the
resting on the
So I
or
take my
resting
pencil and kinda
on
go-
this. Yeah. So, all right. So I've got a solution. I think for a lot of these, the solution is lack of observation on the student's behalf. Now it's our duty to teach them to observe themselves. So in some respects, it's the student's responsibility. They need to observe themselves. Because if we're teaching them 1 hour a week or even 30 minutes a week, we only have 30 minutes to observe their hands, and it's not much time. And then the rest of the time, they could be doing who knows what on the guitar, right? When they're playing by themselves. But if we teach them to observe themselves, then they can check themselves. They can continue the good habits that you've taught them in the lesson. So that's what that first point in the book there, that first point, or I think the first 2 points really, use your left hand to get information. That's a really good way to observe. And then using a mirror. Really encourage your students to use a mirror, and just you can put it in monetary value. Say like using your mirror is like having a lesson. It's like you're paying yourself $80 right now by using a mirror. It's if they're older students. If they're younger students, you might have to make it more fun and say, just pretend you're a dancer, and you're in a dance studio, and you have each finger is like a little ballerina, and you gotta check, make sure they're moving properly by using a mirror. So really important to get your students to observe. They can use their left hand. This is why just playing an open E string is really helpful, because you don't need the left hand. So they can start to play, and then you can start to see habits, right? If you see, if they're doing that, right? Sometimes you just have to tell them, can you please look at your right hand? Because they're just like, so many people's default is like that, right? It's like they're doing something so obvious, so obviously, incorrect. Look at your right hand, please. Oh, okay. And then immediately they'll start to settle down with their right hand. So observation is really important. A little bit of that, they can feel around for information. If there's tension in certain areas, right? They can feel around for movement. If your hand's moving, you can kind of keep your hand there as a way to keep your hand still, right? And then using the mirror. Using a mirror gives you that external view of the hand, the things that you can't see. From my view, I can only see my thumb and my index finger and this side of my wrist. I can't see this side of my wrist. So if they're bending their wrist, they can't even see it unless they're using a mirror. Yeah, Paul?
I had a student, I forget what she was doing. She was doing some kind of weird thing with her hand, but I sat there and filmed her while she was in the lesson.
Yes.
And then went back and showed it to her.
Yes.
And I think it took maybe another lesson to remind her
Yes.
again. And that's another thing, just reminding them over and over and over. But she got it. She saw it and got it.
Yeah, that's great. And that is another advantage of online lessons, that you can record the lessons, you can record little clips, you can take screenshots while they're playing, and you can say, look, I just took a screenshot of you playing, and your wrists are like this, straighten your wrists up, let me take a screenshot again. You have this clear before and after, one's like that, and it's just clear as day which one looks, intuitively you can just tell. So observation is one solution for a lot of these problems. Another solution for many of these problems, especially the hand bobbing up and down. So one of the reasons that people will do that is because they're trying to get more volume. And in some ways it works, right? You can get a bit more volume because you're increasing the movement, but it's not an efficient way to do it. So instead, what you want to teach is to keep the hand still, but to move from the knuckle joints. Move from the knuckle joints. And for some people, it's quite natural. For others, they really have trained themselves to pluck from the tip joints, like that. And you can tell that the kind of sound I'm getting is timid, it's soft, it's hazy. But if I pluck from my knuckle joint, I get this thick, velvety, thick, projected, resonant, clear, clean sound with less effort, actually. I can get, there's very little, to me it just feels like I'm moving my finger. I'm not putting effort in yet. I'm moving my finger back. And that movement is creating energy to produce the sound that I want. Relaxation is really important too, in terms of tone. If there's any tension in someone's hand and they try to produce sound, it's gonna, can you hear the difference? It's very tight and brittle. But if it's relaxed, it doesn't have that brittleness anymore. So moving from the knuckle joints in a relaxed, free way and keeping the hand still, observing the hand, very important. The next point is contact point. The contact point that they make with the string and the finger. Now for this, this is a very, very quick summary here, but if you want more details, I've attached I wrote a thesis about fingernails and tone production. So you can check that out because I compare different schools of thought, different method books and that kind of thing, what they say about fingernails and contact point and that kind of thing. So, but what I can say is that it's quite detailed actually. So we want to encourage them to use the side of the nail first of all, the left side. We call it the playing side. It's generally the left side of the nail, and to start before they pluck the string, that there's partly flesh and partly nail on the string, right? Partly flesh, partly nail. And then when they attack the string, they leave purely with nail, if that makes sense. So there's this transitionary period where there's flesh and nail. It creates a more like a cushion, you could say. And then just before you pluck, you transition so that it's fully nail that plucks the string. It's like almost like a plectrum. And then when we put the finger back on the string, we use our flesh again. Flesh and nail, nail, flesh, flesh and nail, nail, flesh, flesh and nail, nail. That's kind of the sequence you want to teach. And see, I'm just using an open string. If you can get your students to get that kind of sound in a minute or two, which I think you all could, you've achieved something great, because they're learning the art of tone production. It shouldn't take long. If they're just playing an open string, they should get it pretty quick. They should make improvements. Maybe they don't get it all the way, but they should make improvements, and they'll be quite they'll be quite encouraged by that, by hearing the improvement in their sound, and then you can talk about all those other good habits too. So the contact point's important, but so is plucking from the knuckle joint, so is keeping the hand still and keeping the hand relaxed, so is observation. They should also see. Look how I'm watching like a hawk. Like I'm looking at that, not just at my hand, I'm looking right at that spot to see what, am I getting right on that? Yeah? You might even have to tell them when you're watching your hand, try not to don't get in there like that. Just try to stay relaxed here too, right? So, okay. So that's another point there. Contact point, nail and flesh. Okay. Now, when it comes to actually moving around, because obviously we don't always just pluck on the first string. So when it comes to moving around and changing strings, plucking on different strings, something I encourage here is that the arm brings the hand to where it needs to go. rather than them being in like one position and reaching out, reaching in, the arm helps guide the hand to where it needs to go. So a good exercise you can do here is just to get them to change strings. So do a string 1, string 2, string 3, and you can see how my arm is gradually, bringing the hand. It's hard for me to talk and play at the same time. My arm is bringing my hand to where it needs to go, and I really like looking. It helps a lot to look at the string that I'm playing and then look in the camera. So that it's harder to detect when you're doing one string at a time. But if I went from string 1 to string 6 immediately, you'll see the amount of movement in the arm there, you see? Back to string 1. Back to string 6, right? And that's another exercise you could do if you wanted to challenge your student a bit, challenge yourself a little bit even, to go from string 1 to string 6 and get that arm movement going. That could be quite fun. I almost feel like you could make that a little game with a kid. Say, can you jump from the first string to the 6th string and back? Let's play a little game. See how your fingers can take it. Can they make it to the right string? Make it a bit of a game. For the older students, they'll probably just enjoy. You just say it's this gets your technique better, and technique, and all students, you just use the word technique, and they always. And then the final point is to release tension immediately after the student plucks a string. So it is quite easy to maybe hold a little bit of tension after you've plucked a string. You're holding tension. You can probably see in my hand I'm holding tension. If I now try to pluck with this, say that brittle, it's like hard to move it, it's not free, there's grip and tension and everything. So you want to pluck the string and then release the tension, relax the hand. Pluck the string, release the tension, relax the hand. You're going to encourage slow practice where like students very often they just play and the time in between notes, it's not really, it's not something people are intuitively curious about, like what happens in between every note I play. So to encourage them to say, you slow down it so much that you have time to think in your mind in between each note, or you can count. You can say a word like say Mississippi or something in your head, right? So you go Mississippi, or something long, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you got a young student, right, get them to say that. So pluck the string, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's the kind of time you want to have in between, because that will make it very clear to them. Or sometimes I use an analogy of like eating or drinking. Say, can you play a string and then grab your cup, drink something, put it down, and then play another string, right? That's how much time you want in between notes. I can't think of a way to illustrate it more clearly than that, because they're actually making a physical movement. Or sometimes I'll get them to click. I'll do this. Click. Click. Like that. I'm really forcing them to slow down. Because if you slow down, it's much easier to relax. If you can't slow down, it's very hard because you don't have time. If you're playing like this and they think that's slow, you just have to beat it in. You say, no, that's not slow. You really have to use whatever tactic it takes to get them to realize what slow practice is. Maybe it's using a metronome, but metronomes are very temporary. I find they use the metronome, they do it. You turn the metronome off and they're back to this again. So they need something more physical or more relatable, using some kind of physical gesture or clicking or saying something in between each note to slow down. Okay, so I think those solutions can help a lot of those common problems that we talked about. I do have a couple more things and then we'll wrap up with a little task. There are two other things that can help with the right hand. They're kind of related to each other. I'd probably just distill it to one word, which is anticipation. Anticipation. If you can get your students to understand the concept of anticipation, it's like if you're plucking on the first string and you want to pluck onto the fourth string, there's a bit of anticipation that happens, right? Sometimes it could involve, and this is a bit more of an advanced concept, as you guys know, planting. That could involve a little bit of preparation, a bit of planting. But you got anticipation, and planting is like one of the branches from a greater philosophy, because anticipation can apply to everything. Left hand, right hand, looking, reading, right? Reading ahead, forming the left hand fingers ahead of time, forming and moving ahead, forming the right hand fingers, feeling the next string ahead of time. Always thinking one move ahead. I had to define this. I have a young student. I said, "Do you know what anticipation is?" No, because they're like 8 years old or something. So I asked their parents, I said, how would you describe anticipation? I said, one step ahead. Think one step ahead. I really like that. Think one step ahead, because that's basically what it is. If you're one step ahead, if you're playing A minor and you're gonna play a C chord, you want to think one step ahead. What's the next step? What fingers am I moving to? What if I go to a G chord? Same with the right hand. Just one step ahead is good. Is a very good way to think. So get your students to think ahead, and that can solve a lot of problems in most technical situations. I'd say anticipation is a key to helping, but especially with the right, it will probably come up for our whole discussion of technique. This idea of anticipation will come up. Sometimes I like to use the analogy of Tai Chi. It's like Tai Chi when you've got, because I did a little bit of Tai Chi. You've got a series of poses. You're going, I was terrible at Tai Chi. I'm not very good with, but I just took a class just out of curiosity. You've got a series of poses, and you're going from one to the other, and you know what the next pose is, and you're gradually forming your body into that next pose. And then it happens again, and then you go into the next pose. And then it's like you're moving in slow motion, but you know what's coming next. You always know the next pose or the next move. If you don't, you're just going to be like, what do I do now? It's like, it's a totally, you don't have that flow of like going from one action to the next and to the next and to the next. So you could use that. You could use in that analogy. A lot of people understand Tai Chi, even if they've never done it before. They kind of get it. It's, oh yeah, okay. It's kind of this slow, graceful from one move to another. So sometimes I call that Tai Chi. You can use other analogies if you want. Say like it's like if you imagine moving underwater or something like that. That can be another similar analogy too. All right. So with all that said, I will open up questions. If you've got questions at the end here, but I want to finish my my spiel here with your task for this week. You've got one task which is to do with your goals. The other one is I would like you to record a short video of yourselves describing and demonstrating the common problems and the solutions for the right hand technique. This can be it could be a 2-minute video, it could be a 5-minute video, it could be a bit longer, a bit shorter. I don't want to set too strict of a, because I'd like to see what you come up with. In doing this task, I think it will better yourselves as teachers, because you'll have to distill these into your own words, into a short video. You have to demonstrate. I think it's very good preparation. And then I'd like you to share these videos in the Facebook group so that we can watch each other. Okay? Are you a passionate guitar teacher who's ready to take your career to the next level? Dreaming of growing your business, earning more, and teaching what you love while helping more students? Introducing the 6-Figure Guitar Teacher, the ultimate blueprint to transform your teaching into a thriving, profitable business. This course walks you through everything you need to succeed, from technique and sight reading to mastering harmony, composing, arranging, and improvising. It's all designed to make you the most well-rounded and effective teacher your students will ever have. But that's just the beginning. We'll also dive deep into the business side of teaching. In the marketing module, you'll learn how to attract your ideal students, innovate, and create new products and services to generate additional revenue streams. This course will guide you through building a business that can grow with you. And the best part, the 6-Figure Guitar Teacher course is self-paced, so you can learn on your own schedule from any device, anywhere in the world. Join our exclusive Facebook community to connect with other motivated guitar teachers, exchange feedback, and get direct support from experts. With the Six-Figure Guitar Teacher, you'll not only master the art of teaching guitar, but also unlock the freedom and income potential you've always dreamed of. Ready to build your dream teaching career? Enroll now in the Six-Figure Guitar Teacher and start your journey to success today.